Hey everyone, Rho here. Today I'm reviewing the Warhammer 40k novel Penitent by Dan Abnett. As always with reviews, we'll begin with a spoiler-free review followed by a little spoiler talk. I'll put a link in the description to the novel as always. So, let's begin by reading the synopsis off the back of the novel. In the mysterious city of Queen Mab, the forces of light and darkness are locked in a murderous struggle for truth. The dedicated agents of the Holy Inquisition battle with their shadowy counterparts, the infamous Cognitae, to discover the encrypted identity of the enigmatic, all-powerful King in Yellow. Caught at the heart of this struggle is the pariah Elizabeth Bequin. Will she stand with the Inquisition or with the Cognitae that raised her? And if she chooses the Inquisition, will it be the wise but ruthless Ravenor or his rival, the denounced heretic Eisenhorn? Bequin must withstand an onslaught of angels and demons, and even the monstrous warriors of the traitor legions, to unpack the greatest riddle of her life. Okay, so Penitent is the second novel in the King in Yellow trilogy, or the Elizabeth Bequin trilogy if you prefer, of which the first being Pariah, and I do recommend reading that one first, before you move on to this. You may be able to get away with it if you haven't, and maybe if there's anyone who did that, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let everyone know how you got on. But for me, these aren't just simple battlefield stories. It's much more a journey, and one filled with many trials and tribulations. I really feel to truly appreciate it, and maybe even to truly understand it, you really do need to start from the beginning. Now, with that out of the way, the character of Bequin is a fantastic protagonist. You really feel her evolution as a character since her first introduction. And without any spoilers, Dan Abnett has really managed to strike a nice balance between the innocent naivety that we first were introduced to her with, and the hardening persona that has come along with the experiences she has overcome. It's really quite a nice contrast from the genetic enhanced super warriors we so often follow. Bequin is undoubtedly human, and suffers from all the boons and frailties that come along with it. She fears, she cries, she smiles, and she loves. For all the craziness of her situation, you absolutely can empathise with her with every step of the journey she takes. Not once did I find myself not caring how Beta Bequin escaped a situation. As the author Dan Abnett has invested into writing her character, so too do we get invested into his creation. And on that note, I've got the hardback and the audiobook. But for this read through, or should I say listen, I went down the audiobook route. And it has to be said, the narration by Helen Keeley was an absolutely stellar job. Bequin really felt like a living, breathing soul throughout, from beginning to end. I was right with her in all of those impactful moments. And that really extended to the cast of characters who came along throughout her journey. Helen Keeley managed to bring all of them to life in her own way, including a couple of iconic ones such as Ravenor and Eisenhorn. While I may be reviewing the novel, Helen Keeley for her performance has to get 5 out of 5. Now, as for those characters, I found the author Mr. Abnett had really pulled together a strong cast of characters. Each of them felt like they fit, not one of them felt out of place. And again, that may sound small, but it's an incredibly hard thing for an author to pull off. And Dan has done that here absolutely brilliantly. And that's not just for the world, but for the story too. Every conversation Bequin has with these people feels like a natural part of her journey. You're not left waiting for the story to kick back in. You're content to hear these conversations, to get to know these people, to understand their relationships. It's the mark of a great story to me that you're happy to go along with the journey. You're not just waiting for the destination to arrive, for the next big moment to come. And well, it may not come as much of a surprise to many, but Dan Abnett is an absolute master of it here. As for what's wrong with the novel or critiques that I may be able to bring, there's not much I can say. One I have is entirely a personal thing, but I'm just not a big fan of swearing within novels and stories. And this one does drop the occasional S-word once or twice from time to time. But saying that, it really is only once or twice. This isn't a novel where you get the swear words quite often. I guess it raises the question for me, if it's only once or twice, does it need to be there at all? However, again, like I said, that's just a personal thing, and something I know most of you don't mind at all. The second thing is a bit harder to explain, but I'll try to sum it up by saying, there were a few times I had to take a break from the novel, just through working on the channel or other life commitments, and when finally getting to come back to it, if it had been more than a couple of days, sometimes it was a little tricky to remember the exact events of the current situations. So I did find myself being a little overwhelmed. Like I said earlier, this isn't your standard Space Marine battle story. It's much more particular, and there are times when there's a lot of information coming your way. If you're coming back after a few days or maybe even a week or so, it may take you a little while to regain your bearings. You may find you have to restart a chapter to get back on track with the events, to try and re-find your footing. Now that may be because I was in the audio format, where in the heat of the moment events are moving thick and fast. And if you're only half listening, you will get lost in those events. If I was reading it, perhaps it would have been a different story. Regardless, however, these are really the only slight negatives I had, and I absolutely loved my time journeying along with Bequin. If you're new to Inquisitor stories, it may be a little different for you, but honestly, give it a go. You will not be disappointed, because to me, Penitent was 5 out of 5 blessed by the Emperor. If you're into 40k novels, you just have to give this a read. Just make sure you begin with Pariah first. Now that's it for the spoiler-free review. On to a little spoiler talk for those that have already read the novel. And man, this may not be much more than a reaction, because I feel like I'm still trying to process everything. Man, what a journey this book was. I mean, let's just start with that. You know what that is. Constantin Valdor. The name of the king is Constantin Valdor. I mean, just mind blown. I still don't know what to make of it yet. It's like my brain needs to process it before I can accurately express all of my thoughts. Is it truly going to be Valdor? This is going to be an earth-shattering return for the entire 40k universe. Even if Valdor doesn't return completely, just the fact he is the King in Yellow is nothing short of major. Major. This kind of revelation will reach back all the way to the heresy, the truth behind Valdor's disappearance, perhaps the Emperor's ultimate plan. I'll be honest, my first thought when the reference to gold came to mind, I couldn't help but think Rogal Dawn, even more so when Primarchs started to come up in the conversation. However, in speaking of Primarchs, man, Mr. Abnett gave the tease of all teases in talking of the lost Primarchs. I almost thought we were going to get the biggest revelation ever. And while I'm certain we'll never get names or exact details on them, it does feel like they could be integral to the revelations to come. I know it turned out to be Valdor, or at least apparently Valdor, but I don't think we're done with the Lost Primarch references yet. I am absolutely on tenterhooks waiting for Pandemonium. Now lastly, I cannot not talk about Eisenhorn and Ravenor, because this was actually my introduction to these characters, at least within a novel or story. I know, but I always just stuck to those Space Marine stories, such as Uriel Ventress, before diving into the Horus Heresy. However, even I felt the weight and presence of these major characters. Although I doubt anyone thought Eisenhorn was dead, I thought his reunion with Ravenor was incredibly done. Even as someone new to their rivalry, I felt the history of it by just their words and mannerisms alone. I really thought that particular scene was exceptionally done by Mr. Abnett. There's not much more I can say than it was just a great listen from start to finish. And although I may have more questions now than when I begun, man am I excited for Pandemonium to come. We'll definitely have to talk some King in Yellow soon, I just need my mind to process all the events first. But as always guys, what do you think? Did you enjoy Penitent? Did you think it was better than Pariah? And are you looking for Pandemonium to come? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.